Shabbat Shalom Israel. It's your brother Marcus G back with yet another True for Thought. First and foremost, I must give all praises, honor, and glory to the Most High. I must give all praises, honor, and glory to the Most High. Secondly, the prayer list. First up on the prayer list, I want to put my beloved aunt in this truth, Queen Shay. I want to mention her for sure. Pretty much first on the prayer list as Israel. I will say your prayers, it appears they are not going unanswered, as it appears the Most High is moving on our beloved sister, my beloved aunt in the truth, Queen Shay's behalf. And it appears that she is seeing the end of her trying or tributary time that she's most recently come up under. To that, I give all praises, honor, and glory to the Most High. It appears she has come through one of her trying times. She and King Daniel, her son. Second on the prayer list, I want to mention two married couples. One is Queen LaShonda and King Diamond. The second one is Queen Kenya and King Jermaine. Israel, I ask that you keep them in your prayers as well. Next, I want to say Queen Shavonda and King Brian. Israel, keep them in your prayers, as well as, and they've just been on my heart lately, Queen Sharon and King Greg. Keep them in your prayers. I ask that you continue to keep in your prayers the Ellis family. It will be Charles Ellis Sr., his Queen Shirley Ellis, and his son Charles Ellis Jr. Keep them in your prayers. Last I knew, they were still going through a trying or tribulatory time. Keep also in your prayers both my beloved moms in the truth, Queen Valerie and Queen Paula. Also keep in your prayers Queen Crystal, King Josh, Queen Ashley, Queen Brittany, and Queen Lena. If you would, keep them in your prayers. I also ask that you keep in your prayers my beloved Queen Tanya and King Malik, Queen Carly, King Gino, Queen Alicia, King Yalgideon, Queen Doris, Queen Rita, King Mike, King Yada and his queen. And of course, I ask that you all keep me and my queen, Queen Ashley, in your prayers. Now, let's get into the title. I love my brethren, and yet I too have to be separate. I'm doing this truth for thought, and it's not going to be long. It's going to be straight to the point. I'm doing this truth for thought after weeks, actually a couple of months of praying, observing, being watchful. All of these things have led to this particular truth for thought. This is not a truth for thought I ever wanted to do. After making the decision to be a leader when it comes to my nation. So there are a couple of things I want to do first. First thing I want to do is I want to share my screen to the Bible. And in the Bible, I want to look at right now, just one verse, just one particular verse. And that verse is going to be Luke chapter 6. Luke chapter 6 and verse 22. I'm going ahead and getting this particular scripture before I give some background information as to why this truth for thought and what this truth for thought is about. So Luke chapter 6, verse 22, Yahushua said this, all right? I want to examine exactly this that he said. Blessed are ye when men shall hate you, and when they shall separate you from their company, and shall reproach you, and cast out your name as evil for the Son of Man's sake. I will tell you, just as this title says, I love my brethren, and yet I too have to separate. There are certain brethren of mine, they've not done all of these things per se, but there's one thing that has been extremely apparent to me in this particular scripture. And that one thing is when they shall separate you from their company. All right. I've been experiencing such a thing amongst my beloved brethren. Now, I'm not mad. This is not a rant. It's nothing like that. However, I've always been, and as long as it's in the Most High's will, I will always call a spade a spade. Even if that spade has something to do with me. All right. So I want you, Israel, to keep that in mind as I'm going to stop sharing my screen. As I now kind of delve a little deeper into this truth for thought and why. So to further explain it, why not use the thumbnail? Okay, let's look at the thumbnail. In this thumbnail, you of course see the title, I love my brethren, and yet I too must separate. And everything in this thumbnail is very indicative of something. All right. Here you see 3 individuals. They're carrying a suitcase. Those 3 individuals, I will literally tell you, represent me and my brethren. We're carrying suitcases. We're doing the Most High's work. And you see our heads are all facing out into a field. All right. However, I will tell you, I'm the one all the way on the far right of this. I'm the one way over here. And my brethren are these 2, are indicated by these 2 right here and right here. Okay. If you continue to look at this, you see that the arrow, the path that's being chosen for me is going further off to the right, or veering further one way, while the other 2 paths are veering in the same direction, but the opposite way. Right? If you notice, the paths are in the midst of a field. This field, Israel, is you. It is me and my brethren with our suitcase, has our Bible and Apocrypha in it. We're going out, we're doing the Most High's work. However, it appears the Most High is veering me one way. And although there's some distance between my brethren, they're veering in the same direction, the opposite way. Still amongst the field, still amongst Israel. So we're still doing the work in the field of our nation. Yet, my brethren, looks like the Most High is kind of keeping them walking in the same direction. I mean, we're all going the same direction. We're all going upward in this particular depiction. And as you see, the arrows of my brethren are in the same, with a distance, a certain distance, but as they go, their distance is going to stay that way. Well, if you look over at me on the right side, what's depicted as me on the right side, the further I go, the further I'm going to be away from even my beloved brethren. Still doing the work, still in the field of our nation. All right. Keep that in mind. All of this is here for a reason. So I want to stop sharing my screen, because that's as much background information as I'm going to give. I'm not going to give any particulars or anything like that, as that is enough information. So now I want to go back to the Bible, because I want to explain why it has been months of praying for me, months of observing, months of being watchful for me. All right. And I remember I told one of my beloved brethren a long time ago, I love my people, but I pray that it never comes a day. I love all my brethren, all my brothers and sisters. I pray that it never comes a day that I'm ever put in a situation that Ezra is put in or was put in, when he was expressing his love for his people and the Most High asked him a certain question, and he had to answer that question. It's evident I too have been put in that position. So let's go. I want to go and visit that. So we're going to go to the Apocrypha, and we're going to go to 2nd Esdras, and we're going to go to chapter 5, and we're going to read verses 1 through 33. Because in this entails exactly what I'm speaking of. It entails exactly what I'm speaking of. It entails exactly what I'm speaking of. All right. So let's just start 2nd Ezra chapter 5, verse 1. Nevertheless, as coming the tokens, behold, the day shall come that they which dwell upon earth shall be taken in a great number, and the way of truth shall be hidden, and the land shall be barren of faith. Well, this is speaking. Back then, this was a prophecy, right? Many can attest that's right now today. That this is talking about right now today. The truth is hidden, and the land is barren of faith. Now, this is also where it says the land shall be barren of faith. That's within the nation of Israel. So there are a lot of people that will attest, even I will attest, that's right now today. That's going on right now today. But this again was written back when this was a prophecy. Verse 2, but iniquity shall be increased above that which now thou seest, or that thou hast heard long ago. So what's going on? And I'll just tell you what's going on. I'll give a little background of this. You got Ezra. He's being told certain things by the Most High, right? And we're going to dig a little deeper into this dialogue. And the land that thou seest now to have root, shalt thou seest wasted suddenly, right? So, but if the Most High grant thee to live, thou shalt see after the third trumpet. So it's talking about the trumpets that you can read about, or the sounds of the trumpet, the sounding of the trumpets that you can read about in Revelation. Thou shalt see after the third trumpet that the sun shall suddenly shine again in the night, and the moon thrice in the day. I've mentioned this particular scripture before because there have been times, the most I've seen it is twice, where I've seen the sun and the moon up together twice in a day. But this says that 3 times in the day you'll be able to see it. The one time I've not seen it, I've seen it in the beginning of the day. I've seen it at the end of the day. I've seen it in what one would consider the beginning of the day, which is what we know as daytime hours. I've seen it at the end of the day or the end of daytime hours. I've not seen it at noonday, about the middle of the day. I've not seen that yet. Verse 5, and blood shall drop out of wood, and the stone shall give his voice, and the people shall be troubled. And even he shall rule whom they look not for that dwell upon the earth. And the fowl shall take their flight away together. And the Sodomotish sea shall cast out fish and make a noise in the night, which many have not known, but they shall all hear the voice thereof. Again, this is all prophecy. There shall be a confusion also in many places, and the fire shall be oft set out again, and the wild beasts shall change their places, and ministrous women shall bring forth monsters. Now, there are things within this prophecy that are, again, a lot of people will attest. Some of these things are happening right now today, right? And salt water shall be found in the sweet, and all friends shall destroy one another. Then shall wit hide itself, and understanding withdraw itself into his secret chamber, right? I've talked about that too before, I'm going to do another truth for thought on that. But that many people attest to that which is to happen as the famine of the word, which, if you've been paying attention, there are states that are all out banning the Bible, right? Banning the Bible. There are other things that are going on, again, that many will attest to. These things are actually currently happening. Not that the prophecy has fully come into fruition, but that some of these things, we're seeing them happen, right? And shall be sought of many, and yet not be found. There will be many that's looking for the word, but will not find it. Then shall unrighteousness and incontinency be multiplied upon earth. One land also shall ask another and say, is righteousness that maketh a man righteous gone through thee? And it shall say no. At the same time shall men hope, but nothing obtain. They shall labor, but their ways shall not prosper. To shew thee such tokens, I have leave. And if thou wilt pray again, and weep as now, and fast even days, thou shalt hear yet greater things. So, again, the Most High, Ezra, they having this dialogue, right? So, verse 14, Ezra awakes. Then I awake, and an extreme fearfulness went through all my body, and my mind was troubled so that it fainted, right? Now, the Most High was talking through an angel to Ezra. So let's keep reading. Verse 15, so the angel that was come to talk with me hailed me, comforted me, and set me up upon my feet. And in the second night, it came to pass. So this actually happened with Ezra. The Salathiel, the captain of the people, came unto me, saying, where hast thou been, and why is thy countenance so heavy? Right? So he asked him, why you so down? Right? Knowest thou not that Israel is committed unto thee in the land of their captivity? Up then and eat bread, and forsake us not, as the shepherd that leaveth his flock in the hands of cruel wolves. Then said I unto him, go thy ways from me. Ezra told him, leave me, and come not nigh me. Don't come near me again. And he heard what I said and went from me. And so I fasted 7 days, mourning and weeping, like as Uriel the angel commanded me. Because remember, back up in verse 13, he literally say, to shew thee such tokens I have leave. If thou wilt pray again, and weep as now, and fast even days, thou shalt yet hear greater things. So he was told that, so he did it. Let's see what happens. I'm going back to verse 20. And so I fasted 7 days, mourning and weeping, like as Uriel the angel commanded me. And after 7 days, so it was. So after the 7 is the number of completion. For those who are new in the truth and don't know. So after these 7 days, he fasted, he prayed, he mourned. And after 7 days, so it was so that the thoughts of my heart were very grievous unto me again. And my soul recovered the spirit of understanding. And I began to talk with the Most High again. Here we go. Because we getting to where I'm going with this. And said, oh Lord, before I go any further, remember, when Ezra spoke with Salathiel, the captain of the people, right? He was bearing news that he was already feeling down. Then he came and said, knowest thou not that Israel is committed unto thee in the land of their captivity? So he's reminding him that Israel is in captivity. Up then and eat bread, and forsake us not, as the shepherd that leaveth his flock in the hands of cruel wolves. So Ezra already feeling pretty bad. So he went ahead, he fasted for 7 days. Let's go back to verse 23. I just wanted to recap on those particular verses. There's a reason for it. There's a reason that I did that. Verse 23, and said, O Lord, that bearest rule of every wood of the earth, and of all the trees thereof, thou hast chosen thee one only vine. So here you finna see where Ezra is saying, you have only one chosen. Of all the different types of people, of all the things that you could have chosen, you chose only one. All right. Verse 24, and of all the lands of the whole world, thou hast chosen thee one pit, and of all the flowers thereof, one lily. He's referring to Israel. as a vine in verse 23, as a pit in verse 24, and as a lily in verse 24. Verse 25, and of all the depths of the sea, thou hast filled the one river. He's referring to Israel as a river in verse 25. And of all the builded cities, thou hast hollowed Zion unto thyself. One of the dwellings of Israel. It's the reason why our queens are often referred to as the daughters of Zion. All right. And of all the fowls that are created, thou hast named the one dove. He's literally saying Israel is a dove right here. And of all the cattle that are made, thou hast provided the one sheep. The very same sheep that the Most High sent his only begotten Son for, which are the lost sheep of this same place that Ezra is referring to, the same people, Israel. He's referring to Israel of all the cattle as the one sheep that was chosen by the Most High. Verse 27. For those that don't know or think that all of that I just said and read is a crock of shit. And among all the multitudes of people, thou hast gotten thee one people. And unto this people thou prepared. And unto this people whom thou lovest, thou gavest a law that is approved above all. That was all about you, Israel. Ezra, in as many ways as he can think, he compared you, Israel, us, Israel. He compared us to cattle and said, we're the one sheep. He compared us to open waters and said, but we're that one river. Right? Verse 28. And now, O Lord, why hast thou given this one people, not everybody, but this one people, over unto many people, over unto everybody else? And upon the one root hast thou prepared others. Why hast thou scattered thy only one people amongst the many, amongst everybody else? So the Most High chose one people, not everybody. Then the Most High scattered his one people amongst everybody. And they which did gainsay thy promises, these same people, they gained the promises that you made. And believeth not thy covenants, had trodden them down. These other people have trodden down this one people. Everybody the fuck else has trodden down the Most High's one chosen people. Right? This, Ezra already has the knowledge of this, right? Because again, he was reminded of it up in, I want to say it was verse 13, I think I said, 13 and 14. He was reminded of these things, right? Outside of Uriel, if you read a chapter over, had already been showing him some things over that first night, right? If thou didst so much hate thy people. Now, here goes where Ezra questions the Most High. If thou didst so much hate thy people, Israel, yet shouldest thou punish them with thine own eye, with thine own hands? So what Ezra is saying is, seeing that they going through what they going through, these people doing ungodly things to them. If you had such a problem with Israel, why didn't you just deal with Israel yourself? Because you're not going to do to them the atrocities that every fucking body else is doing to them, right? Verse 31, now when I had spoken these words, when Ezra spoke these words, the angel that came to me that night before was sent unto me and said unto me, hear me and I will instruct thee. Hearken to the thing that I say, and I shall tell thee more. Right? So he got the Most High's attention. Boy, did he ever. Verse 33, and I said, speak on, my Lord. Then he said unto me, thou art sore trouble in mind for Israel's sake. Just in case anyone thinks that everything I said or everything that I read, and if you feel like, or if it's your opinion, or you think that it's incorrect, the Most High himself, through an angel, is saying exactly who Ezra was speaking about. He says right here, thou art sore trouble in mind for Israel's sake, that chosen people that Ezra referred to as eloquently as he could in any shape, form, or fashion that he could. He said, of all the cattle, they're the one sheep. Of all the places where water is, they're the one river. Of all the multitudes of people, it was just that one people. But look at the next part. Lovest thou that people better than he that made them? So the Most High said, okay, so you question me, right? Well, let me ask you something. They're your brethren. Do you love them more than you love me? I want to go on to just verse 34, because Ezra had to answer this, right? Ezra had to answer this. He said, and I said, no, Lord, but of very grief have I spoken, for my reins pain me every hour when I labor to comprehend the way of the Most High and to seek out part of his judgment. Now, you can continue to read that if you like, and you'll see where the Most High basically verifies that which you can find elsewhere in the Bible, that the way I think ain't the way any of you men think, even my chosen men and women. Basically, that's what it basically surmises to. So now let's go back. Stop sharing my screen. Let's go back. I'm going to share my screen back to the thumbnail, right? Because for the last couple of months, I've been praying. I have fasted. I've mourned the possibility of a separation from me and my beloved brethren, right? Then I thought about this account with Ezra. Because although, as you can see, my arrow is going the other way, I'm not going to try to bend it back to make it go where my brethren are going. Even though we all head in the same direction, they're heading that direction to the left. I'm heading that direction to the right. I'm not going to try to bend that path to make it go back in to the left. Because as much as I love my brethren, it appears that I too must separate. And that's not taking anything from my brethren. Because as you see, they still out here doing the work. They still in the field of Israel. As am I, but the Most High is separating me. And it behooves me, as much as I love my brethren, because if the Most High were to ask me, do you love your brethren more than me? I'm going to say no. And I would think to myself, I just want to do your will. And it's apparent that his will is that I continue to veer to the right. As much as I love my brethren. So now I want to go and speak on, like I said, this truth for thought, not going to be long. I'm going to speak on separation. And remember, I opened up with Luke 6:22. As you can see, the company of my brethren, they're still going to be able to keep as they both are going the same. They're veering the same direction, but it's apparent that I won't be keeping company with them. That has been proven actually already to me. I remember a day when I used to reach out to my brethren and within seconds sometimes, even minutes, I'd hear back from my brethren. I can tell you the last time I've heard from my brethren, regardless of how many times I've reached out to them, regardless of how I've reached out to them, I've not heard back from my brethren. Again, I'm not mad. It's just obvious. It's apparent. I've been observing. I've been watchful. It's apparent. The Most High is separating us. Now, we're going to go and look into separation because that's something that Israel was supposed to do anyway. But a lot of people, when y'all hear people that have been in the truth for a minute, they're going to say, well, we're not within Israel. That's not true per the Bible. We're going to look at separation. We're going to look at separation as it applies to Israel and any and every other walk of life. We're going to look at separation even within Israel. And then we're going to look at separation that is done by the Most High to Israel as a whole and within Israel. Right? We're going to look at all those. All right. So let me stop sharing my screen. We're going to go back to the Bible. We're going to go back to the Bible. All right. And we're going to start by looking at separation as it applies to Israel as a whole in regards to any and everything else. Right. So let's start with Leviticus 15 and 31. Leviticus 15 and 31. And it reads, "Thus shall ye separate the children of Israel from their uncleanness, that they die not in their uncleanness, when they defile my tabernacle that is amongst them." Now, Israel are to separate from any and everything unclean, right? Basically, even within Israel, believe it or not. That's why there's 1/3 and 2/3. Again, a separation, right? But let's go to Leviticus 20 and 25, because you notice it says here, they defile my tabernacle, right? The defiling of, and that's a possessive, my tabernacle is Most High speaking, right? So let's go to Leviticus 20 and 25. We're going to go over 5 chapters to Leviticus 20, and we're going to get verse 25, right? Because the temple or tabernacle is you, Israel, right? Don't defile yourself. If there are people that defile themselves that are of Israel descent, you are to separate yourself from them, right? So let's go and look at verse 25. "Ye shall therefore put a difference between clean beasts and unclean, and between unclean fowls and clean, and ye shall not make your souls abominable by beast, or by fowl, or by any manner of living thing that creepeth on the ground, which I have separated you from as unclean." Right? So the Most High separated you from unclean. It's the reason for things like the dietary law. You defile your temple if you're eating unclean beasts. However, I just wanted to be saying about separations and what Israel, how Israel as a whole, things that Israel as a whole are to separate from, right? So let's go to Ezra. Let's go to Ezra. I'm going to look at some other things that Israel as a whole is to separate itself from. Ezra 10, we're going to get verse 11. "Now therefore make confusion unto the Lord God of your fathers, and do his pleasure, and separate yourselves from the people of the land, from every fucking body else, and from strange wives." It is true My people have, this has been a thorn in our side for a long time. You can read about it even in the Apocrypha, which we're going to get a precept for this. You can read about it in the Apocrypha. Man, our people don't mind dealing with the heathen, even though we're not supposed to. And I'm talking about in the form of companionship, marriage, bearing children with. Although we're not supposed to, it's been a thorn in our sides for a long time. Some reason we've not learned from the errors of our forefathers, because some of our forefathers did it as well. You want a good example? Solomon is an excellent example for you. An excellent example. But let's go and get a precept for this. Let's go to First Ezra. For now, we're going to the Apocrypha. We were just in the Old Testament. We're going to go to the Apocrypha. First Esdras 9:9. And we're going to see there's definitely substance there in Ezra 10 and 11. So first Esdras 9:9, and do his will. So it's talking about doing the Most High will again. And separate yourselves from the heathen of the land, from the people of the land, as it was said in Ezra, and from the strange women. So there are things that Israel as a whole, we're to separate ourselves from. And that's what I'm looking at. Let's go to Nehemiah chapter 9, verse 22. I'm going to go to Nehemiah chapter 9 and verse 22. Nehemiah 9:22. And my screen just going wherever you want to. 9 and verse 2. Apologies. Salakia. Nehemiah 9:2. And the seed of Israel separated themselves from all strangers and stood and confessed their sins and the iniquities of their fathers. I'm going to tell you some of the iniquities of our fathers. Some of the things that's been a thorn in Israel's side. Things like idolatry. And I'm going to kind of go into that next Sabbath. So I'm going to talk about an account. It's a very certain account for a very certain reason. Another thing that's been a thorn, as I just stated, is this dealing with the heathen nations when we should not, in a manner that we should not. That's been a thorn in our side. So these are some of the iniquities that Israel confessed, some of their sins, some of their transgressions that they confessed. But notice they separated themselves from all the strangers, from all the heathens, and did this, right? Let's go to 2 Corinthians. We're going to go to 2 Corinthians, and we're going to get chapter 6 and verse 17. 2 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 17. Wherefore come out from among them and be ye separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you. This is straight to Israel. No different than if you go to Revelations 18, when it's talking about the destruction of Babylon the Great. There's a warning sent to Israel and people of Israel descent, which is come out of her, lest ye die in her iniquities. Come out of Babylon, lest you die in Babylon's. That's right. Again, showing separation, how Israel is to separate. Israel as a whole is to separate. Let's go to Hebrews. Let's go to Hebrews. We're going to get chapter 7 and verse 26. Hebrews chapter 7 and verse 26. Hebrews 7 and verse 26. For such an high priest became us, who is holy, harmless, undefiled, separate from sinners, and made higher than the heavens, right? This is referring to Yahweh Shah. Okay. Yahweh Shah was of Judah. Yahweh Shah is the blueprint which all of Israel should attempt to follow. That's why you'll hear people say, I'm trying to follow in the footsteps of Yahweh Shah, right? Yahweh Shah did all the law, statutes, and commandments. So if you're doing the law, statutes, commandments, you can say you're following in the steps of Yahweh Shah. But he was separate because of his walk. All of Israel, even though all of mankind, we all walk, we all have a walk. Israel is to walk differently, separately. Israel as a whole, Now let's go to Ecclesiasticus. We're going all the way to the Apocrypha, Ecclesiasticus. We're going to chapter 6 and verse 13. Separate thyself from thine enemies, from every fucking body else, and take heed of thy friends, of thy brethren, of thy nation. So, as a whole, and again, we're just looking at separation, instances of separation. As a whole, Israel is to separate. They're supposed to separate the things that they consume, that they eat, thus the dietary law. They're to separate from their enemies or from the rest of the world. They're to set Israel, righteous Israelites are to separate from people of Israel descent that are unrighteous. That doesn't mean we're not supposed to try to teach them. Now, the Most High is going to give a heart and an ear to those of them that he wants to have it. This is very true. You can read this in the Bible. But it is also a commandment that if you see your beloved brethren about to be in error or erring, you are to correct them, right? It doesn't mean they're in error because they don't know. That doesn't matter whether they know or not. You're to teach them. Then they get to make the decision whether to go ahead and be in error or go ahead and stay in error, right? But if they make that decision, the righteous Israelite is to separate himself. Oh, well, you want to be unrighteous? You go right ahead. I'm going to stay out your way. I'm going to separate myself from that. All right. So, in regards to that, let's look at Leviticus 22 and 2. Because yes, Israel, righteous Israelites are to separate themselves from unrighteous Israelites. Even the Most High makes a difference in that when you read about 1/3 and 2/3. He makes a very distinct difference. He separates the two, even when it's being spoken of. They're very separate. There's 1/3, and then there's this separate 2/3, right? So let's go to Leviticus 22 and verse 2. Leviticus 22 and 2. And we're going, first we looked at separation as Israel, as far as Israel as a whole. Now we're going to look at separation even within Israel, right? The Most High, it was his will that Aaron and his sons, the Levites, right? They were separate. He made it be known. Let's just look and see. Speak unto, this is the Most High speaking to Moses. In fact, I can give 1 and 2. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto Aaron and to his sons, that they separate themselves from the holy things of the children of Israel, and that they profane not my holy name in those things which they hallow unto me. I am the Lord. So the Most High is telling Moses to tell Aaron and his sons to separate themselves from Israel and the wicked things of Israel, right? Let's see if there's some substantiality to that. Let's go to Numbers. And both of these are in the Torah. Both. Numbers 8 and 14. Thus shalt thou separate the Levites from among the children of Israel, and the Levites shall be mine. This is because the Levites were the keepers of the law. I'll say that. Right? They were the law keepers. They were the ones to, at that point in time, set the standard. Let the standard be known that Israel were to keep. They were the law keepers, right? Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 10. Still in the Torah. Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 18. He doth execute the judgment of the fatherless. Oh, Deuteronomy chapter. Oh, I meant Deuteronomy 33 and 16. Deuteronomy 33 and 16. Deuteronomy 33 and 16. And for the precious thing of the earth, this is another time when part of Israel was separate. And for the precious things of the earth and the fullness thereof, and for the goodwill of him that dwelt in the bush, let the blessing come upon the head of Joseph and upon the top of the head of him that was separated from his brethren. So yes, even within Israel, there are times of separation, no matter how much we may love our brethren. No matter how much we may want to be with our beloved brethren, it's not our will. At least I understand it is not my will as much as I would love. As much as I would love to, it is apparent that even I must separate. So now let's look at the Most High and when he separates, right? Because if even I chose to be disobedient, right? If the Most High, if it's really his will, he gonna make it happen. He's gonna make it apparent, as my beloved Aunt Shay said. You can ask him to show you, and when he show you, it's just as good as him taking a piece of paper and slamming it down on the table and saying, "Well, here you go." When the Most High does it, it's ever so evident. So let's go to Leviticus, back to the book of the law, still in the Torah. Leviticus 20 and 24. Because this type of separation, this is what is evident to me. It's the reason why the thumbnail is the way it is. It's the reason for this whole truth for thought. Leviticus 20 and 24. But I have said unto you, ye shall inherit their land, and I will give it unto you to possess it, a land that floweth with milk and honey. I am the Lord your God, which have separated. So the Most High separated you from other people. And this was to Israel in a whole. Now remember, he told Moses to tell the Levites to separate themselves. But we're seeing where the Most High is declaring when he separated, right? Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 32. Still in the Torah. Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 8. When the Most High divided, separated to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. When the Most High did this. Let's go to 1 King. Again, it's like, hey, when he do it, it's clearly evident. Let's go to 1 Kings. 1 Kings, and I got just two more scriptures for this truth for thought. 1 Kings, chapter 8, and verse 53. For thou didst separate them from among all the people of the earth to be thine inheritance, as thou speakest by the hand of Moses, thy servant, when thou broughtest our fathers out of Egypt, O Lord God. All that separation done by the Most High himself. So I want to look at some things. We started this truth for thought by words spoken by Yahweh Shah, right? I want to end this truth for thought by words spoken by Yahweh Shah in regards to a prophetic thing to happen, a prophecy of a thing to happen when the Most High separates, right? So let's go to Matthew chapter 13 and verse 30. Let both grow together until the harvest. And in the time of the harvest, I will say to the reapers, gather ye together first the tares and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. This is speaking about when the Most High is going to separate the wheat from the tare. Now you see that the tare is going to burn, the separation of the 1/3 and the 2/3, right? The 1/3 is going to be the wheat and the barn and the 2/3 set to burn. Let's go now to Matthew 25 and 32 because it's a precept today. Matthew chapter 25 and verse 32, right? And before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divideth his sheep, even Ezra. When we first started this in 2nd Ezra chapter 5, referred to Israel as a certain cattle. Of all the cattle, he chose one to be his sheep from the goats. I'm gonna keep reading this because I went over this not too long ago, like within the last 2 months. I'm gonna keep reading so you can see the difference, the separation in the sheep and the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right side, and the goats on the left. Then shall the king say to them on his right side, come, ye blessed of my father, inherit the kingdom, the barn, prepared for you from the foundation of the world. I'm not going to go through all of it, but he literally says, because when this applied to me, you did this. And when this applied, you did this. And when this applied, but I want to drop down and let's look at the goats. So I'm going to drop down to verse 41. Then shall he say also unto them on the left side, on the left hand, where the goats are, where the tare is, depart from me, ye cursed, into everlasting fire to burn, just like we read back in Matthew 13 and 30. Prepared for the devil and his angels. Just like you can read when looking at the 2/3, they must die and be cut off from the world. So the Most High even separates, right? Israel is to separate from certain things as a whole. Within Israel, there very well can be separation, just like what I am speaking of right now in regards to me, myself. In fact, the Most High has confirmed that it's best that I separate from my beloved brethren that I do love, and it is with a heavy heart that I am saying I'm going to do the Most High's will. And although me and my beloved brethren, we're continuing to walk in the field of Israel and continue to do the work of the Most High, it is obviously his will that I continue to veer off to the right, as depicted in that thumbnail. As my beloved brothers continue to do the work in the field of Israel, but on a different heading. And again, I say it with a heavy heart. However, I am obedient. So as heavy as my heart may be, it's not extremely heavy. I just hate it. I wish that it was, if I could make it be, I would. But it's evident that that's not the case. It's not my will. Thus, I say with a heavy heart, not that I'm torn down and just need to be on suicide watch or nothing. No. I just look back and I remember. And that though the way that me and my beloved brethren were with each other, I'm pretty sure it'll always be that way. Always. Our headings are just a little different right now. Maybe it'll be the Most High will. Eventually, we may come all back together again. But it's evident to me and many others who have bore witness. Not right now, today. Israel, I pray that you continue to keep in prayer everyone that I mentioned. That's going to end this Truth for Thought. So I want to say it's your brother, it's your beloved brother, King Marcus. I want to bid you Shabbat Shalom. I love you. And until next time, be it the Most High will, I bid you Shalom.